Do you know which words we actually understand? Not guess. Not react to understand. Most people assume we don't really understand what you're saying, that we're just responding to sounds, patterns, food noises, the shake of a bag, the opening of a can, and in many cases, that assumption feels comforting because it keeps things simple. But that's not always the full story. We may be understanding far more than we show. And the part most people miss is what happens after we understand I am Mewy, and we've been observing you for longer than you realize. Not just listening, watching, learning, adapting. Because from an instinctive perspective, we were never designed to obey. We were designed to observe. And once you start seeing that, everything we do begins to feel different. So let's start with something you think we ignore. But that's only one possibility. There's another reason most people overlook. And it starts with your voice. 1. We may recognize our name, but response is a choice. You call our name once, twice, 3 times. We look at you, blink, and sometimes walk away. And you think they didn't understand, but in many cases, we heard you the first time. According to animal behavior research, cats are capable of recognizing repeated sound patterns, especially when those sounds are consistently associated with outcomes, which means we don't need repetition. We process quickly, and then we decide, because to us, understanding and responding are not the same thing. Example, you say our name, and what usually follows: food, we come; bath, we disappear; vet, we were never there. So over time, we don't just learn the word, we learn the consequence. And in many cases, the decision happens before you finish calling. Fun fact, cats can retain associative memories for long periods, especially when those memories involve reward or stress, which means we don't forget easily. We evaluate quietly. 2, we may understand no, but we respond to energy. You say no, sharp, fast, loud, and we pause, freeze, stop, and it feels like it worked. But from our perspective, that's not exactly what happened, because we don't interpret no as a rule. We interpret it as a signal, a shift in your state. From an instinctive perspective, animals are far more sensitive to tone and energy than to specific human language. So when your voice tightens, your body changes. Your movement sharpens. We notice that and we adjust, not out of obedience, but out of caution. Example, if this happens repeatedly, too often, too intensely, something changes. We stop reacting to the behavior and start reacting to you. We become more careful, more distant, more observant, not because we learned a rule, but because we adapted to a pattern. And in many cases, that pattern creates distance, the kind that builds slowly and is rarely noticed until it's already there. But not every word pushes us away. Some words pull us closer. 3, we often understand treat more precisely than you do. You say it softly, and somehow we're already there, watching, waiting, focused. And it looks simple, but it's not. It's extremely precise, because every time that word appeared, it was followed by the same result: food, reward, relief. According to learning theory, consistent pairing of signal and reward creates one of the strongest behavioral associations, which means we don't just learn the word, we learn the entire pattern around it. Example, the sound of the bag, the way you stand up, the direction you walk, the time of day. And in many cases, we respond before the word is even spoken. Fun fact, cats are highly sensitive to routine changes and can detect subtle differences in movement and timing, which means we are not reacting to the word. We are predicting the outcome and completing the pattern. And if this is starting to feel a little uncomfortable, like maybe we've been understanding more than you expected, that's normal. But that's only part of what's happening because it doesn't stop with you. 4, we may recognize names beyond our own. You think we ignore conversations, but in many cases, we are listening, just not in the way you expect. You call another name and we react. You say something different and we notice because we associate sounds with individuals. From an observational perspective, animals are known to differentiate signals tied to identity, especially in shared environments. Example, we notice who gets called first, who receives attention longer, who gets fed sooner. Yes, we track patterns quietly, constantly. Sometimes we respond just to confirm what we already understand. And sometimes we stay still because we're watching something else. Your choices, your consistency, and whether it changes. 5, we may understand, come here, but we decide based on experience. You say it gently, come here. And sometimes we walk towards you. Not always, but often enough. And those moments are not random because this word is not just a signal. It's a memory, a layered one. From an instinctive perspective, animals attach meaning to outcomes rather than to isolated sounds, which means every time you use that phrase, we recorded what followed: warmth, safety, comfort, or something we didn't enjoy. Example, if coming to you felt safe, we come again. If it didn't, we hesitate. And in many cases, that hesitation is not resistance. It's evaluation. And when we do come, it's not obedience. It may actually be trust, a quiet decision based on previous safety. And every time that pattern breaks, that trust shifts subtly, but consistently. Because here's what most people don't realize. We are always learning you. Every tone, every reaction, every pattern, not just what you say, but what happens after and over time, we build a version of you inside our mind, sometimes predictable, sometimes uncertain, sometimes safe, sometimes not. And everything we do comes from that version, not your intention, not your words, but your consistency. And in many cases, you're doing the same thing to us. You're just not aware of it yet. So the next time you call our name and we don't respond, don't assume we didn't understand. In many cases, we understood more than you expected and chose differently because communication is not about words. It's about meaning, consistency, and experience. From where we stand, you are always communicating even when you think you're silent. You might call it ignoring, but in many cases, what you're hearing as silence may actually be a decision you haven't quite earned yet. And once you see it that way, you may start to realize we've been understanding you long before you started understanding us.